So, welcome back to the 42284 podcast. We're here in beautiful downtown Sunfish, Kentucky.
In the She Shed studio.
In the She Shed studio. Frank, this is called the She Shed studio.
Okay.
Because this is Brandon's wife's, this is her hobby area, and her side, she got a little side business.
We're just kind of renting it.
Yeah, we're renting it for cheap rent. But we call it the She Shed studio. So, we've got Frank Toms with us today. Frank lives in a suburb of Sunfish, kind of right on the edge in Sunny Point, which it's basically the same area. It's like Huff and Big Reedy. We're all one big happy family on this side of the river and this side of Bear Creek.
Well, if you got a road that connects Sunfish Sunny Point Road,
yeah,
you're close enough. You're close
live
enough.
on
I was between Big Reedy Creek and Sunfish. That's where I spent my whole growing up period.
You're basically born and raised within 3 miles of the same spot, right?
Vincent's, those my friends, Lester and Romy and all them, Larry and Rhonda Bayless's kids. Then I had the Big Reedy friends. I fished in both creeks growing up.
I know you that well.
Well, see, me and Walton married sisters.
Right.
And Larry married my sister. See,
I knew
Renetta.
that. I knew that.
Yeah.
She's in Texas now, right?
Yeah, been there for a long time. And see, she got the two boys, Todd and Bradley.
Yeah. All of our friends, Scott Avery, who lives down the road here, and his wife Brandy, they have made friends with, I guess that's Todd. And heck, they were in Texas, and I think they stopped and stayed in Todd's driveway a couple nights in their RV.
Well, he got a place. He got a lake and everything down there.
Yeah, that's what Scott said. He had a
got
dandy
a lake.
place.
He got a big boat dock out there on it. He got it set up.
Yeah.
I'll tell y'all a good story on Todd. So Todd calls me, and he says, I've got something you may want. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, I've got a wash stand that my mom had that belonged to your great-grandfather. And some way or another, great-grandpa Emmett had traded Larry this wash stand at one time. And the story I got was he had bought this thing and had it shipped in up Litchfield, I think on a train, and went up there and picked it up. And it's got either Hayes or Emmett Hayes wrote on the back of it
I've
still.
seen that. You showed
I've
that
got
to
it
me.
in my
Yeah.
living room.
Yeah.
And Todd actually brought that thing. I think it had, been to Texas and back.
Larry had all kinds of antiques. He was big on these antiques. What he'd do, he'd go to these old house places. And you'd be surprised years ago what they'd move off and leave.
Yeah.
And it's, man, I hunted bottles.
I was very grateful to get that.
Yeah.
That's a great piece to have.
They got a piece of Fed Key furniture Renetta has. You don't remember Fed Key?
I just sold the place.
You sold it?
Yep.
Well, right there's where he lived.
Yeah, I just sold that farm about 3 months ago.
Up on the hill?
Am
In
I
that
still
short
on?
curve.
Okay.
Okay, I'll tell you a story. Fed Nanny, that was his wife. They lived there.
Now, they lived on the upper side of the
They
road.
lived right up in there, and the sun never hardly ever hit there.
Up in that valley, right?
Yeah. So they lived there, and so we had the Winchells was up to Litchfield on the street, and Clyde Winchell, I don't know if you ever heard of Winchell, but anyway.
I've heard Winston speak of the Winchells.
Well, Winston talked about them. But anyway, they was interviewing them, and they said, they asked them, you all want to say hello to anybody? They said, hello, Fed Nanny. And every one of them said, hello, Fed Nanny. They asked everyone, hello, Fed Nanny.
So I had that piece of ground, which they had
How many acres was it?
Kyle, 30.
Probably.
Yeah, I
They
don't-
used to sit on the porch.
So that's a hillside's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they had a house. I think I remember the house when I was a
The
little
old house
kid.
had a high porch.
Yeah. Looked over the road there.
It's on the right. If
Yeah.
you're coming from Giffords, it's sitting up there. And
And then he had a garden spot in
Yeah,
the
a
curve
little
on the
garden
left,
spot.
down under that.
Yeah.
And the old well is still down there.
Yeah.
But so I took a guy up there to look at that farm back in the winter.
Yeah.
And when we started up the hill to Low Ridge, there was a humongous track hoe sitting right up on top of that hill. And I thought, well, what's that doing there? And so I look, and here comes a guy walking up from the road. And I said, well, what do you got going there, buddy? He said, you see that hill, that right away out through there, that power line right away? Yeah. He said, well, there's a steep hill. Oh, I know, man. I've spent a lot of time in this. I've made a lot of money on this hillside, over the years. Trees falling and and you're not going to get a truck in there. You
Sure.
pack tools in, climb it, and pull the wire back up. But they had took that one of those. They call them a giraffe, which are like a log skidder with a big pole
Yeah.
with the buzzsaw on the end of it, out through there, and got to the top of that hill, which drops down to the road, and it's a bluff. You can't walk it. It's rock ledge, but it's all growed up, and you can't tell it's there. They got to the top of that hill, and the old boy said, "I ain't gonna take this piece of machinery over that." And the foreman said, "Well, yes, you are." And the guy said, "I'm telling you, it's too steep." Yeah. He said, "You're gonna take it across down that, or I'm going to." And the old boy says, "Well, get in it." Now I don't know what's some giraffes cost, Brandon.
I don't know.
400,000, half
The
million.
one we've got, I mean, the giraffe makes them. We've got one called a Sky Trim. A lot of people call all of them the same thing.
Yeah,
you know,
but I mean they're expensive.
I'm sure they're
piece of
expensive.
equipment.
I mean, I don't know.
So
but
the foreman jumps in that thing, and he said the front wheels dropped over, and when the back wheels left, they went end over end down that hill.
Oh my goodness!
and that's saying something because they're long. I
Yeah.
mean, they're
I mean head over tail, or tail over
End over end.
Yeah, down off over that hill, and so they were fishing that thing. They brought another one of those track hose in, and fished that thing back up that hill. It was hung halfway down that hill, and they couldn't take it on down the hill to the road, so they had to wrestle it back up through there. So, well, let's do an introduction, and you can edit all this around. I know he's getting
I
good.
got a
He's
good
Chief
story
Kamal.
about the Fed place. If
He's
you-
a chief commander. Well, just go ahead and tell.
Yeah,
it.
tell us.
just go ahead and tell it. I can add that in anywhere.
One time, Charles Mattingly, my brother-in-law,
Now you said the Fed place. What they're on
Fed.
in the Fed Key place?
Fed
Okay.
place. We was out on a Sunday, and O'Neill Winchell was with us. One of the Winchell boys, and Randall Kerr. You remember Randall?
Oh, I knew Randall.
Okay,
James's
so we was
James's
out-
brother.
What we done, we told O'Neill. O'Neill lived down on the hill there from Lee Hardin. They did. The Winchells did. So we told O'Neill we was going to Litchfield. So we let him out up there at the end of the road where it starts coming down through there. Well, what we done, Charles drove gravel. It's all gravel road then. Charles drove all the way back around, and he parked out there. And me and Randall come out the road there, and Randall tied a white rag around his head and laid right flat of the road and in the road. And so O'Neill was singing when he's come. Usually they're scared when they're singing. He was singing. Okay, he's singing. I got up on the bank.
That's a
I got up
telltale
on the
sign.
bank. I had some rocks. I got up there, and well, here come O'Neill running through there singing, and he come up on Randall was just laying stretched out right in the middle of the road. He said, I might better not say what he actually said, but he
Just
said,
paraphrase.
paraphrase. He said the S word. What are you doing here? and so he did. He said, "What are you doing here?" And so anyway, he didn't do nothing, and I cut down with him on the rock, and he said, "I could throw rocks too." And when he said that, he shot out running. Charles said he went down. He didn't go down the path. He went every dog Clyde Winchell had was barking, and he run home flying. And later on, we said, "How come you run?
Run off?
Yeah, run." And he said Ray Lowe was missing. Ray Lowe was he got killed or something.
I want to know more about that story about the Ray Lowe. I want to know what you know about it. Not right now, but I'll ask you.
Anyway, he said, "I thought it was Ray Lowe laying in that road." And that's when he shot out.
Yeah.
He's making a straight line.
Yeah,
too,
oh
wasn't
man. Charles said he passed him just flying.
When Dad bought Low Ridge,
Yeah.
it took them forever to get a deed for that because, and Kyle, you may know something more about this than I do.
I've never heard this.
But the road used to stop at Gifford's house, and so from Gifford's house up to the Low Ridge driveway was put in like the '60s. Do you remember that?
When the road built?
Yeah.
By Giffords?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they had never
It
deeded
built
that road.
the road 1075, and I always call it the Gifford Road because Gifford lived there. Okay, it was built in 51.
Okay.
51 is when they was built. And I could tell all kinds of stories. But anyway, it was built in 51. I was 10 years old. And before it was ever a road, it was all back in there. Nobody had a car. Nobody had nothing.
Yeah.
And Gifford had a phone back then, and they'd call him. He had an old Jeep, and he could go around. But it's built in 51. They built that through there. But I could tell some more let me tell about this road. In 1951, they started that road out 1075 from 185. Well, they's building. They done had their stake. They done had their stake grades. They had their stakes drove down all the way up. My grandma and grandpa lived right out there. We did too. So me and my cousin Jimmy, we's out and we said, look at them sticks. They make good stove wood for grandma. See, grandma,
Kindling.
that wood stove.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We pulled every one of them up. We took a whole grade, and they done had the numbers. They done the grade. They never did find out. We took them, getting grandma.
Y'all burned up 3 months worth of work.
Yeah, and they had to redo that whole thing, that whole road. We pulled every one of them.
At least Grandma stayed warm.
Yeah.
We
So,
took grandma
It
some
don't
wood.
hurt nothing to double check your work, Frank.
that was a county road at the time. What turned into a state road, and when they sold that farm, they had never deeded that section of road.
Yeah.
There was no deed on it.
Yeah.
And so Gifford claimed he owned a foot on the other side of the road from his farm.
Mm-hmm.
And he took that bunch to court and won. And so we straightened it up when I sold it that last time. But yeah, it was a mess for years.
You've got some of that all over our county, and I'm sure all over
Yeah.
rural
the
places
phone
across the
company
country.
come down through there one time. They said, we're going to bury fiber optic down through here. And I said, well, how much you going to pay me? They said, well, we're just going to put it on state right away. I said, ain't no state right away for about a half mile up through there. Well, yes, there is. I said, oh, no, you're not. You know, it's going to cost you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up giving it to him for $1 just to, you know, but I wanted them to admit that
To
they-
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, my dad's brother married Gifford's sister. My dad's brother. She married Edgar Toms, Daphne Lowe. And
Now, where did Edgar live at?
he Ohio. He moved, but he had 4 boys, and he's all barned up there on the low ridge. I can remember when they lived up there. Okay, he was in Louisville working. That's during the war. He was up there working, and Aunt Daphne, we call her Aunt Daphne. He had Truman, and one of them's dead. He had 4 boys, and they all barned up there on the low ridge, just right up past where. On out there on the left is an old barn.
Oh, Rube Lowe was
There's
Rube.
4 you got the Rubes. It's
Okay.
back this side on the left. But I remember Uncle Rube, I've been to his place a lot of times. But anyway, my uncle was working in Louisville, and he got to drinking and stuff. And my aunt got mad at him. She went to the local board and told the Army to take him. In World War II, he had 4, they did.
They listened to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took
You
him.
have him.
They took him. Yeah.
So you touched on, I think you said Ray Lowe a while ago.
Yeah, Ray.
So what did he have 2 sisters that lived up here on the Moon Road, Flossie? When I was
they was some Lows over there.
When I was a
I
kid,
believe
there was
Ray
2
Lowe
sisters.
was Rube's boy. I'm not sure.
There were 2 sisters that lived on the Moon Road.
Yeah.
There, almost before it intersects back into Cedar Grove.
I remember. Yeah.
Lived off in a house that had dirt floors in their
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
And we would take them groceries up there, and you would walk back just a path to their house.
Yeah.
Flossie and Gracie, if I'm not
Flossie and Gracie,
If I'm
that's
not
it.
I
incorrect.
remember
And
them,
they would
yeah.
be sweeping that dirt floor.
Old man Rube lived up there. See, Rube Lowe. See, that was Gifford's uncle.
Yeah.
Jim Lowe was his daddy. So my uncle married Aunt Daphne was Jim Lowe. Gifford's daddy was Jim Lowe.
Okay.
And
So that church. There's a church there by the high school in Grayson County that the pastor is a Lowe.
yeah,
And I was there one time for they do youth basketball. And I got to talking to him, and he said, my grandfather's name was Rube Blow from down in there.
Yeah.
And I said, I know, right? I said, heck, I own that part of that farm. And he said, when I was a kid, we would drive until you just couldn't drive anymore. And he said, you would walk and walk and
yeah,
walk.
yeah.
But Gifford told me one time when I was a kid down there that the roads would get so bad
Yeah.
that when they first got vehicles, that in the winter they would put their vehicle in the barn, jack it up, put it on blocks where the tires weren't sitting. They'd drain all the water out of it, and they'd let it sit until spring, till the roads got again. They just
Oh, it was,
ride horses
hey,
through the winter.
Horses, they still. When I was growing up, I was 10 years old when they built 1075 in the Gifford Road, and nobody had electric. We didn't have electric. Nobody had nothing. Well, there's one. Miss Rebecca lived out on 185, and she had it. And but there's nobody. It's all dirt. They still riding horses. Sunny Point. Dennis French. You've heard of Dennis
Yeah.
French?
That's my grandpa.
Yeah.
That's my mom Dorothy's
That's right.
dad.
Dennis he rode a mule over at the church house, Sunny Point. He used to ride his mule over all the time.
Well, you remember Walton touching on that. That's why Dorothy ended up a year behind him in school, because her dad held her back a year, didn't send her to school for a whole year because of the mud road.
Just too hard to get there.
Oh, it's bad road. Well, anyway, one time I was working for this Milton Likens guy. He had an old Jeep, and he'd let me drive it home of a night. Of course, I went everywhere that thing. I drove that thing everywhere.
And they thought we were
Well,
bad
I was
ball
over
up.
there. One day it's raining, and I went back into Dennis's place. I come in the other end. It's just mud. Well, I got in a ditch, and I couldn't get that Jeep out. And I went out there, and I asked Dennis, I said, Dennis, could you pull me? He took his old mule, and he pulled me out with that Jeep. He pulled me right out of that Jeep.
You were talking about nobody had electricity.
Yeah.
Guy Durbin that lives there over here where Brandon lived
Yeah,
at, he
yeah.
told me when he was a kid that when they first brought the power lines through here, that they paid him and his brother they would dump the poles off their old stake bed truck, and they paid him and his brother to drag the poles where they had where they wanted them at. And then they would dig the hole by hand, the people would, and then they would pay him to take those mules and help them set them up in the thing.
Well, after they built the road, it was a while before we got electricity. After that, everybody had kerosene lamps or Latin lamps.
Guy told me that I think Ephraim built maybe this house up here across from Cedar Grove Church Road that Lisa and Jimmy live in.
Yes.
I've got pictures of that thing being built. But he said that when they first got the electric put in it, that they had a light bulb in the living room.
Yeah.
And he said we would go in there at night, and Dad would turn his radio on, and his mama died when they were little.
Yeah.
And he said Dad would turn the radio on, and he said we'd turn that light on. He said we'd sit there and stare at that light bulb.
Hey, that light would blind you. When we got that bulb, where it's got that thing, we couldn't keep from looking at it but it was so bright. Just
Right.
that old bulb. We just
Yeah.
had a bulb up there.
Yeah.
Well, Guy said that one night they went in and flipped it on, and it flashed and didn't come on. And he said Dad wrote a letter to the REA. He said they waited 2 weeks. Said old boy showed up one day, come in the house, unscrewed that light bulb, said sit it down, put a new light bulb in, flipped the switch
right
on, said
on.
it come on. And he said I asked him, what are you gonna do with that old light bulb?
Yeah.
And he said, I'm gonna throw it away. And the guy said, can I have it? And the guy said he gave me that light bulb. And he said it was blown. He said that was my prized possession as a kid, was that old blown light bulb. He said I'd get into it with one of them brothers, and he said they'd run, grab that light bulb, hold it up over their head, and say, I'll throw it down. I'll throw it down. And the guy said, I'll kill you if you don't break my light bulb. But he said to look back at that and to think that we wrote a letter because we had a light bulb out and waited 2 weeks for them to come change that light bulb. He said, how silly is that?
Yeah.
He said, but that just shows you how times change.
Oh, man. I never had running water in my whole 18 years at home. We never had water.
Now, where did you grow up at?
Right out there from 185. Jones Road?
Yeah.
Right there.
On the corner.
Right there.
Now, did your dad lived there, right? That's where your dad
He
lived.
died right there.
Okay.
He lived right there. We used to, one time, I can just barely remember, we lived over what they call Herb Mattingly's place is on, well, basically is in Grayson County. Daddy had 70-something acres, $500. He couldn't pay for it. Grandpa took it. And he
Now, where is that at? What?
where Charles Mattingly lived.
Yeah, at Mattingly Road.
Okay, is right towards south. He had a strip of land in there. We call it Alf Hardin place, was on over, but anyway.
But you went out Mattingly Road to access it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well
Okay.
then it was just dirt. It had back then it just well, when I married, it was mud. Walton had too. We had to walk up there.
Yeah,
well, I
Walton-
never did walk.
Walton claims he had it rough. He'd walk uphill both ways, barefooted, all that stuff.
Home run.
So
away.
that old farm of Winston's has a road that goes across the back of
it
it,
goes all the way across.
across the creek, and comes out on Bethel Cemetery.
That
over
was the
south.
old county road, but you could always go straight on. You could go to Beach Grove,
Yeah.
Pad Creek.
Yeah, you can still drive back through
Yeah,
there.
you can go back through there. Yeah.
Now, instead of going to Beach Grove, going down over the hill to the creek there,
Yeah.
to come out, there's an old rock wall up on the bank. I don't know how old it is. Somebody's built a hand-laid rock wall
Yeah.
all the way down through there, through those woods. And I tell Jill all the time, I'd like to know Why would you build a rock wall like that in the middle of nowhere?
I think people would lay people in the road with napkins over their face. That's where they hid to throw the rocks.
Is that what it is?
That's where they hid to throw the rocks from.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so. They were hellions back then, they say.
I didn't tell you.
That's what I hear.
My home ran away from me when I was 3 years old.
What do you mean?
Huh?
What do you mean?
I fell out of a covered wagon.
Oh, is that what it was? We were talking about the Lowe sisters up here,
Yeah.
Flossie and Gracie. Seems like I remember a story where they had a brother who always packed a bunch of money with him,
Killed.
and he got up to Louisville one night and just disappeared off the
Never did find him.
Was that you said Ray Lowe? Was that
That was
Ray, or is
him.
that a different somebody?
No, that was Ray. That's one. He was scared that was. He'd come back down here. They told all kinds of stories. They said he carried quite a bit of money.
Right, that's the
And
story.
anyway, I don't know if he went to joints or whatever.
Got the flashing, it's what I heard.
Yeah, and he disappeared. They thought maybe somebody brought him down here and fed him to hogs. There's all kinds of rumors. Never did find him.
And now y'all, as teenagers, were scared he was going to show up in the middle
See,
of the
that
night.
old Neil was scared.
Right.
Yeah.
See, he
Right.
thought his Ray Lowe come back.
Yeah. So I'd always wondered about that.
Yeah.
If my memory had.
They never did find.
Green
They
that
said he
up, or-
carried that money with him. Of course, you can't do that and show it around.
Yeah.
Nobody ever did. To my knowledge, they never.
Yeah, he
found
just,
it.
disappeared.
Yeah, he disappeared. They either whatever they.
Well,
did.
up in Louisville, they throw you in that river back then.
yeah.
You
Sure.
they never would find you.
No, that's what it was.
So.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He thought it was Ray Lowe.
So you went to elementary school at Sunfish?
No,
No,
Slate Bank, one room school.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
Is
where
that
was
school
where was
still?
it at?
Is that still? Is
Where
it
was
still
it at?
standing?
It's right there where Duval lives, the cemetery, Slate Bank Cemetery.
Oh, or Carlton or Johnny?
Can you remember the
Well,
church that was
Johnny-
there?
Okay,
Yeah.
there's a double wide down there. Johnny's brother, whatever. Right there's where the school sat. Slate
Oh,
Bank
okay,
School.
I didn't know that.
Right there. And Sunny Point had a one room school right out. I own part of it. Went right through it. Gifford tore it down and built a barn out
Yeah,
of
I've
it.
still got a bunch of that tongue and groove. I saved a bunch.
But
of it.
anyway, no, I went there to probably the third grade. I probably started at Sunfish fourth grade.
Did they close Slate Bank and you came, or you all moved
No,
up?
they still kept it. They kept all those schools quite a while after I started at Sunfish.
I have heard that there was a school up here at Cedar Grove Church Road. Do you remember that?
No, but there's one at Little Mountain too.
Well, that'd be
You never
it.
heard that? Little Mountain right up here?
Yeah, that would be it. That right there where Cedar Grove comes
I
out.
didn't
at
know
Little
my
Mountain.
dad did. He said, hey, they come over and played baseball when he was growing up.
Right there in Harold Stewart, behind
Yeah,
Harold
it's right
Stewart's
in
house.
there, Little
Yeah.
Mountain. It's
So
called-
John A.'s sister, that was one of them, Margaret, that was one of the nuns. She actually went to school to be a teacher before she joined the convent, and that's where she taught at.
Yeah.
And then she left there and went and joined the convent.
So how old was she when she joined the convent then?
In her 20s.
Okay.
I don't know exactly, but she taught
Well, they
there
had
for a
those
couple
schools
years.
all around.
Right.
About how many kids would be at Slate Bank, Frank? when
Well,
you
we
were there?
had, it was probably 20 some odd. I mean,
And that was
eighth-
all grades, one room
Eighth
school?
grade. It went from first
Okay.
to eighth. You know what? You could learn a lot better because you listen.
Here in those upper grades.
Yeah. See, they do all the classes in the room, and
Right.
I mean, I went there 3 years, and there's a lot. We had a good time there.
Well, if you were in the third grade and you had eighth graders in the room with you, and
Yeah.
they were being taught, you were hearing that and
yeah.
knowing what
oh,
to
yeah,
expect.
you listen to them. Well,
Yeah.
they had some big old guys.
Mhm.
Teacher Landon Woosley was my first year teaching, and he was my daddy's teacher too, Landon Woosley.
Okay.
And
Did
anyway,
your daddy go to school there?
huh?
Did your daddy go to school at Slate Bank?
Slate Bank, and he went Mount Pleasant had a school right over from it too.
Okay.
It's
And,
still
uh,
is that the one
building's
that's still standing?
across from the church.
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
what I thought
Yeah.
he was
That's
talking
what
about.
it,
Slate
yeah,
Bank.
that's it. That's it. That's still there. It was a schoolhouse. Plus, see, Sunny Point years ago was a church house and a schoolhouse.
Right where it's standing now?
No,
Oh, no, Sunny Point, yeah.
School.
Yeah.
It was right down from.
It's where the Ralph Willis's house was, right?
Well,
Kinda on the
Ralph,
corner?
what happened? Ralph, he had half the land. My line went right through the school, and Ralph. And when they finally tore it down, we, got it back.
Yeah.
And anyway, but it's right behind Ralph's house. Right, Ray Steard's house was up there, and it was right there. Sunny Point was. But they had then they built the Sunny Point church in like 47, 6, 7 or whatever. My mom went to 8th grade there.
Okay.
And that's where she went, and her sisters. Well, then they couldn't go no further. Eighth grade, and that was it. And they got married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My mom was 15 when I was born.
Really?
15 years old.
Well, so you went to Sunfish after your.
After Slate Bank, I went to Sunfish.
Okay.
Yeah, but my brother and 2 sisters all graduated from Caneyville. I'm the only one went to Edmonson County.
Were they older or younger than you?
I'm the oldest. Yeah.
You're the oldest.
Renetta married Larry.
Yeah.
Then my brother, I'm like 10, 11 years. A lot of people don't know I got a brother.
Well,
I didn't.
I didn't know.
Is he still alive? Who's your brother?
Arlen Toms. He's been in Texas. He left when he got 17 years old, and he's
Never looked back.
never been back. He's sick. He's had prostate cancer, but he's 70.
What part of Texas is he in?
He's over around north of Tyler.
Okay.
He's been there, well, almost 50 years. He just celebrated his 50th anniversary. Me and my son went down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know.
And your
Yeah.
dad
Huh?
was Edmund.
Yeah.
Edmund was your dad.
Yeah.
And Vera, was that your mom's name?
Yeah.
Edmund and Vera.
Yeah, I remember your dad. I don't
Yeah,
remember your
Edmund's
mother.
great. Oh, he's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a fox hunter.
All of his life, and he got about 80, he quit. And Mama, she's always mad at him anyway. Cause
Well, that's why he fox hunted.
he'd go, he'd go, don't matter what. Hey, if it's Friday night or Saturday night, he went. He
Sure.
didn't care if he had company or what. He'd leave them. He'd go. And anyway, he just deer is what broke him. He said his dogs started running deer, and they take his dogs out of. So they built that stock.
Fox pen.
Fox pen. Yeah,
pen.
we talked to the
Well,
Alexanders.
Daddy, he
about it.
didn't ever like it. He didn't have no dogs, and Mom was mad. Said, "All my life, I've wanted you to stay home. Now I can't get you out of the house." She's mad at him because he wouldn't go.
We know the pain. So when you went to Sunfish, you played sports. You brought some pictures here. Brandon took pictures of them of you on the baseball team.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played basketball 1 year or so.
Was the hog pen still by the ball diamond?
We had hogs. Yeah,
Did you slop them?
yeah, slopped them. They took a cafeteria slop, and that's what they raised hogs.
Yeah.
I think it was 15 cents for lunch when I started over there. 15 cents for lunch.
Yeah.
And Walton was still going. I remember Cecil. Walton graduated, I guess, in '56, probably something like that. And Cecil had ahead of him. I remember him when
What year did you graduate?
I graduated in '60.
So did you graduate Edmonson County?
Yeah, first year.
First year.
Consolidated.
Okay.
First year. Well, what happened to me at Landon Woosley, the first year I went to at one-room school, we walked, from home. We walked. Everybody walked. There wasn't no bus coming up, and
Right.
wasn't no buses come and picked up nobody. But anyway, I didn't go. I got sick, and I didn't go for about 2 months. Well, when I went back he started me back in the first grade with my sister. So that put us in the same grade, and I was older. I'd have graduated a year Larry did if I hadn't, as I always say, failed me my first year.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. We don't hold that against you.
Yeah.
So what was the reason your sister and brother went to Caneyville? Would the
Renetta,
bus pick them up, or
she didn't go till sophomore year. She went to Sunfish, and I don't know. She did something, whatever it was going on. She didn't like it there. See, we lived. The Grayson bus come right by the house.
Mhm.
Grayson and
Oh, yeah,
Edmondson
y'all
bus.
are right there on
yeah,
that line.
come right by
Yeah.
the line. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could go to either one.
Yeah.
So her sophomore year, she went to Caneyville. She went 2 years, but my brother and other sister, Marcy, they went to Slate Bank when they started. They went to Sunfish a year or two. Then They all went to Caneyville after that.
So you've got two sisters?
2 sisters.
Now, is Marcy still alive?
Yeah.
Where's she at?
Bowling Green.
What's her last name?
Luckaball.
Luckaball.
Yeah.
How you spelled that?
Luckabaughh.
I thought I was gonna catch him on that one. I guess not.
Yeah.
He went to Sunfish.
He went to Sunfish. Yeah.
I listen.
And you told us earlier you think you still have your old Sunfish baseball uniform.
I believe it's in a suitcase up in the garage.
We would love to see that. You may be the only person that has something
I'm pretty
like that.
sure I got it. I'm gonna have to get. I can't hardly climb no more, but
We'll get Johnny, send him up there.
I ain't never home.
Have to get him to stop first.
Yeah.
Can't never get him to stop. No, I think I've got it though.
Yeah.
I've got my old jacket too. My
Letter jacket.
leather jacket.
Wow.
Sunfish.
Really?
Wow.
Of course, it's not much, but it's in that suitcase somewhere.
Yeah.
Had
I
the
would-
S, and you had your
Was it black and gold?
just
like the school
It's
color?
pretty cool. I went to Edmondson County. See, I had that Sunfish jacket.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
See, everybody thought there was going to be problems when we went to.
That's
it
what
wasn't
Ray
no
told
yeah.
us. the
There
other
wasn't
day.
no problems. It never was
Yeah.
nothing to me. Kyrock, we got along with Kyrock. We never did like Brownsville.
That's okay. You can say it.
Yeah, I think that's the running consensus.
There was always that
There's
rivalry
always
there.
rivalry.
We always with Brownsville.
Yeah.
Kyrock, we always got along. You know, that just.
You know, when I was in the high school, Grayson County, Edmonds County, you hated Grayson County. Them swampies, blah blah blah.
Yeah, tobacco stick bowl.
Tobacco stick bowl, and I've got a lot of good friends from Grayson County.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it just
Well,
Yeah,
even
my
as little
granddaughter,
fellers,
but
we
I
went to
can't answer
Kyrock.
her.
There wasn't a Sunfish, obviously, when we come through.
But
But
Kyrock and
Kyrock and Brownsville had
Day.
that had that rivalry
Field
field
day.
day.
Oh, I went
I
fifth
remember
grade.
Jason Massey come out there. I was in the 4th grade, I believe, maybe 3rd grade. He was in the 5th grade. The ultimate event was run a quarter mile once around a track. You remember that? He shows up with a red bandana around his head, long hair down past his shoulders, blue jeans. Who runs a race in blue jeans? With a beard, a
Yeah.
scruffy beard. Hey, we thought it was Rambo out
yeah,
there.
5th grade.
Hey, Stephen Smith was our man.
Yeah.
He half-tracked Stephen. I love Stephen. He was our great athlete.
Yeah.
But he half-tracked Stephen. I'll
That's
tell you what,
funny.
he was a man among
Yeah.
men. He had us bluffed out from the very beginning. He was a one-man tug-of-war.
Yeah. Oh, he was an
Oh,
athlete.
Massey was the man.
He was a year older than me. You're a year behind me, right? You're
So it must have been
99.
2, yeah.
he's a year
I must have been
older than
3rd
me.
grade
My
then.
oldest boy graduated in '80 from Edmonds County. All my kids graduated from Edmonds County.
Yeah. Now, where does your oldest boy live at?
Clarksville, Tennessee.
Clarksville, Tennessee.
My other son's in California.
Hey, I knew you had one. What part? San Diego?
No,
San
he's
Bernardino?
been in so many different places. He's been superintendent out there, and he'd stay a few years here. He's in what they call Susanville, California. It's north. He's up where it snows and everything now, but he's been in the desert. He's
What's he superintendent of?
schools.
Oh,
high
school
school.
superintendent,
Yeah.
That'd be a rough job. Out
Yeah.
there. He's got-
Oh,
that'd be a rough job.
He's been
Anywhere.
He started off in L.A. teaching. He's been Oxnard, L.A. I'm Brackenridge, Fresno. I don't know who. Baker. Baker was right south of Death Valley.
Yeah.
Death Valley's right here. Baker right here on Interstate 15.
Yeah.
He's been everywhere. Now he's up in from Lake Tahoe. He's about from Reno. He's about 80, 90 miles north.
I've been to California several times, and
Yeah.
outside of L.A. and San Francisco and the bigger, it's beautiful.
Is that close to that big Sequoia
Yeah.
redwood?
Sequoia's out a couple hours.
I've been to Sequoia,
Yeah.
Yosemite. I've been Hearst Castle.
That Hearst Castle's neat.
I've been
isn't
to
it?
Reagan Library at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
It's something.
I had
Very
no idea
interesting.
you'd traveled like that.
Huh?
I had no idea you had traveled.
Well, my son, they graduated from California. My 2 boys did. They graduated from college in California.
What made them go out there?
Well, they started out in a church college in Texas. That's how come my brother down there. A church that I belonged to at that time had a college in Texas, had one in Pasadena, California, and one in Brickenwood, England. So my daughters went to Texas. Well, one of the boys did 1 year or so, but they went to California and graduated from California, Pasadena.
I didn't realize
I go
all
to
that.
graduation out there. they got married. But married a girl that he went to college with.
Yeah.
He'd been out there 30 some odd years.
I tell people, talking about like New York City, places
Yeah.
like that, I never thought I would care anything about New York City or California in my life.
Yeah.
And I love both.
Mhm.
Now, I don't.
California weather's nice, but boy,
Yeah.
you can that traffic and everything. Ooh,
I don't care if I ever go to San Francisco or LA again.
Yeah. The bigger.
But outside, it's beautiful. Highway 1 between that runs up the coastal highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May be the prettiest drive in the country. That's
Yeah,
where
I've
that
been
Hearst
up it.
Castle
I've been
is.
up it. Yeah. Been up
My
there.
wife and I drove it a couple.
I've spent a couple
Years ago.
nights up through there.
Yeah.
Now Hearst Castle's up that. You've heard of Hearst Castle?
I've heard of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
that's
like the
something else.
Biltmore Estate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on the West
that,
Coast.
That old Hearst was a big newspaper.
Yeah.
They say he's the one that actually made Billy Graham. Billy Graham was a preacher at that time in California, and Hearst was a big newspaper man. So he started
Reporting on him.
featuring Billy Graham, and Billy Graham became just what he was.
Well, the reason I asked about Sequoia, let me tell you kind of a funny story on Dave McGrew. You'll like this.
Say David.
Oh, David, yeah. So that, you get me out of Sunfish, I get lost, Frank. People talk about going out west. I think they're talking about Paducah. I don't go anywhere. And so he and his wife had taken a trip out to Vegas. And, Vegas
I've
is
been there,
right in the
yeah.
middle of a desert. And they had planned their trip where they were going to go up and see the redwoods,
Yeah.
which are just amazing to
Yeah, they
see
probably
from what I
went Kings
understand.
Canyon.
Hoover
Yeah.
Dam's out there.
Right. Yeah, just a lot of good touristy
Oh,
places.
yeah.
Well, they stayed a little longer, and it was going to cut their trip short because they were going down to the Grand Canyon
Yeah.
to go up and then
Grand
come
Canyon,
back down.
Hoover Dam's all
Right.
right there.
So Kristen's like, let's just go. Let's forget it. And David's like, no. He said, I'm going to see if there's anywhere else around here that we could go. So he said he called the front desk of this hotel that they were staying at in Vegas. And this guy answers the phone, and David said, we're from Kentucky and we're doing this tourist thing, and we were going to go up to see these redwoods.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere any closer that we could go see something like that? And he says, Mr. McGrew, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we're in the middle of a desert. He just slams the phone and hangs it up. He said, I can't believe somebody out here thinks I'm that dumb.
Went to Las Vegas.
So,
and
needless to say, they didn't go anywhere else. They
Yeah.
went straight to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Johnny and his sister Abby and we went to Las Vegas. Spent 2 nights there, and the most excited thing about they saw at Las Vegas, they couldn't get over those people begging for money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't get over that. They'd never seen anything like that. And they just look at them and they sitting there. I said, "Hey, don't." I said, "They got a Cadillac parked behind there."
Yeah.
Guarantee it. I
So
guarantee it.
I got to tell a San Francisco story when we were out there.
Yeah.
We took all 5 kids out, and we rented a house in Richland. I think Richland or Richmond, California, which is a San Francisco suburb. And it's close to Oakland. And so Lindsay, she VRBOs this house. And she said, I think I've got us a great house. I said, really? She said, yes, it's a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
Really? No, this is our first trip out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we fly into San Francisco at like 10 o'clock at night. Kids are hungry. She gets to look and she said, well, there's a Domino's 3 blocks away. I'm just going to order a pizza. We'll stop and pick it up. Okay. I pull into the Domino's and it's got 3/4-inch rebar bars on the window.
Yeah.
It ain't just regular, big bars. And I said, I don't know about this. I said, I'm going to go in and get this pizza. And we'll get out of here. She said, no. She said, you keep the vehicle running. I'm going to run in and grab it. I said, I don't want to do it.
You
"No,
said
I'm
even
going
better.
to." Yeah. Yeah, even better. Yeah. You ain't out in 10, I'm leaving. So she does. Comes out and she's like, we're in a bad part of town. So we get the pizza and we go and we get into this neighborhood and there's no street lights. It's dark. All the houses have bars on the windows. So we get to this house and it's an older house they have remodeled and they've made it pretty nice. And we go in and I get to looking around. I open the door to the backyard and it's like an oasis, like palm trees and these big sails. And I'm out there walking around. I'm like, well, this ain't too bad. And I get to hearing something. I get to looking over in the corner. I'm like, what is that? I finally pull my phone out and turn my light on, and there's a chicken coop. I look, and there's 3 chickens in there. And I thought, what kind of people? I'll go in and told Lindsay, there's chickens in the yard. She said, well, I think these people are organic eaters. She said the refrigerator's stocked with organic milk and stuff. Oh, okay. That makes sense. So next morning we get up bright and early, and we're going to go see Alcatraz and the Full House and the Fisherman's Wharf and ride the trolleys and do the whole tourist thing. And I make sure the door is locked every night before I go to bed. It's just something I do. And if I leave, I may push the door.
Oh, at your
times.
home,
Yeah,
like
my
where you
home.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we get
You
up
sound
next
like
morning
Heather.
at daylight
Yeah.
and leave. And so we come back at like 10 that night, and we pull up. The front door on that house it's a Saturday. It's standing open about 10 inches, the front door. I said, Lindsay, the front door's open on that house. And she said, oh my gosh. You know, because we're in a bad part of town already. And I said, well, I guess I'll go in. No, you're not going in. I said, I'm going in that house. I'm telling you, I'm going to go in that house, and whoever's in there's coming out. Nope, no, you're not. So she calls the cops. Well, they roll in. There's about 4 of them. They search the whole house. Come out, nothing. Old boy says, now tell me what y'all are doing again. And I said, we're here from Kentucky, and we have VRBO'd this house. And he said, and you all picked this area? And I said, well...
You said no. She picked this
well,
area.
I said, it's a $500,000 house. He said, that's a cheap house here. He said, now, if it was a $4 million house, you'd probably say, oh, that's a decent house. He said, but junk brings $500,000
Oh,
in
yeah,
here.
yeah.
And I said,
That's
wow.
unbelievable.
And so he said,
It's
I'm going to tell you
unbelievable.
something. He said, you're not in Kentucky anymore.
You're not at all.
He said, you need to
You're
go
not
in there. He
Kansas
said,
City.
I'm going to wait for you. He said, you need to go in there and you ought to get all your stuff. And you need to get in this vehicle. And you need to drive 2 hours that way. And you don't stop until you've been on the road 2 hours. And I said, really? He said, I'm dead serious. He said, if you need gas, I'll follow you to the gas station. I'll sit with you.
Yeah.
And he did. But, I mean, apparently we were a bad part of town. But, yeah, he said, you're not in Kentucky anymore, buddy.
Did I ever tell you about getting lost in Memphis?
I've been in Memphis. And
I got lost in Memphis at midnight.
Yeah.
Pulled up at a gas
That little
station.
St. Louis.
Yeah.
East St. Louis.
Yeah.
That's as bad.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's bad.
And I was in the rollback. I'd picked a car up down there, and I was like, this is for cell phones and GPS. I was like, I got to get directions to get back to the interstate. I walked up. It's just like you said, there was bars on the wall, on the windows and things like that. Walked in the door, and where the cashier was, it was like one of those...
Bulletproof glass.
Yeah, where you could just slide the little... And there was a little short lady who was working, and as soon as I walked through the door, she said, you lost, ain't you? And I said, yes, I am. I said, can you help me get back to the interstate? And she was perfect.
Yeah, people
Yeah,
are nice.
she
Nice,
helped me
yeah.
get back to the interstate. But
So y'all on all this traveling, King. I wish we'd have got Walton to tell this while he's here, but we didn't know nothing about it until. Where did he tell us he was at with the truck and camper when he ran over the? Was
a
it
refrigerator.
refrigerator?
Yeah.
No, I was down in Texas.
Yeah, he was heading down there to see for the boys.
But
Marshall.
Was he? He was in. I thought he was. Was he not in Arkansas or somewhere coming back? Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, he could have been, but that's where
But
he
he's been to
had
Texas.
he had to stay there for a while.
Yeah.
just set his RV up.
It knocked a
Transmission
kinked the
line.
transmission lines, and the transmission went out on the truck. Got too hot, and he took his truck to a shop and just set up the camper in the shop's lot.
While
out
he
there.
fixed it.
Stayed there
And had to
a week.
Had to wait for him to order a transmission. But he said he was driving and he's in like the middle lane.
Yeah.
And there's a truck in front of him. And he said, Dorothy said, that refrigerator looks like it's going to fall out of that truck. And about that time it did. And he didn't have nowhere to go but over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. He had to get apart. He had to stay there for quite a while.
Wait on the transmission, yeah.
I was talking about one time we went to Niagara Falls, my wife and my 2 daughters. When I drove up there, and I got in at Niagara Falls, and it was late. And we was looking for a McDonald's. You know, I had to find a McDonald's. Couldn't find nothing. So I said, let's just go on up here. And I said, it had Canada across the bridge. So I said, let's just go across Canada. So I drove across that, got up there, and I stopped, and they said, where you from? I said, Kentucky. They said, is that, where's that at? They said, is that the United States? I said, yeah. So, okay, I went on over in Canada, couldn't find nothing over there either. And I come back, I had to stop again. They said, what you got to declare? I said, I'm thinking, declare what?
I declare I'm starving to death.
I was thinking, and finally I said, I ain't got nothing. And he said, "Go on." See, that's back in the '80s, I think.
Yeah,
well,
it's not like that now.
86. No, yeah. Now you could, but I drove to Mexico, and you could go down to from Tucson to straight down is can't think of Mexico. But you could just walk over then and go.
Yeah.
I remember my brother down there. They selling everything. They try to sell you everything, and they's all looking for vanilla and all that kind of stuff. And of course you don't ever pay them what they asked. And all that stuff made in China, what they sell,
Right.
all them rugs
Right.
and stuff, everything. And my brother said to one of them, said, "How much you take for that?" No, he said, "What's the most you'll take for that?" To one of them, and he said, "What's the most?"
What's the most? Threw him off.
We were down in Jamaica, and they've got all those tourist traps down there. They just
Yeah,
worry you to death trying to sell you stuff. Well, man, that's what they're doing to survive. I understand, but I don't need your stuff. And if they've got something wood, if they'll say, "What's your name?" and you'll say, Kyle, and they'll carve Kyle in it. So here you go.
You feel obligated to buy it now.
Yeah, and you're like, "I don't want that." And so I did that, and they said, "Well, here you go, Jeremy." And I said, "I don't want that."
Yeah.
Well, what am I supposed to do with it now? I said, "I guess you better start looking for another Jeremy." Good luck. There's not many of us anymore.
Tommy Bolton told me, I believe it was in the 60s, his uncle drove a truck
Yeah.
and would go down into Mexico and make deliveries. And he would just come in sporadically, because he was an over-the-road truck driver. And he said, "I want to show y'all something that I've seen down in Mexico to eat." And so they go and get everything fixed up, and he made tacos.
Oh yeah, it's new
For the
thing.
first time he had ever seen them. And Tommy said, "It's years before we ever had it again." Because they didn't know how to make it. The uncle was the only one that knew how. But he had seen tacos being made down there, and they'd never even heard of such a thing.
tacos,
They
yeah.
eat beans and taters.
Yeah, so we like to give shout outs to our sponsor, and it's Brandon's wife. She's got Hayes Farm, or
Hayes Farmhouse Design.
All right, so you're gonna edit this, right?
I can.
Yeah, edit all this out.
Don't.
I was thinking something else. So Hayes Farmhouse Design, and she does the banners and the T-shirts
Okay.
and the
Yeah, we got to get you a T-shirt.
yeah,
before you
she
leave.
does signs and stickers and stuff like that. So she's on Etsy and Facebook. So if anybody needs any work done, check her out.